Well, my plan originally was to upload all the things that I have learned for my children and grandchildren and great grandchildren and so forth, and anybody else who might have any interest. But yeah, it seems to me that I'm every time I think of something, I'm thinking of other things, and I'm trying to get it in order. And anyway, I think that I'm going to change my whole direction on this. And instead of trying to like go through and set out all the proofs for what I believe and everything, uh, I'm going to just try to talk about what's on my mind because it seems like if I'm trying to work everything out and get it complete, I don't do anything. All I do is think about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start just spouting off whatever's on my mind. Well, let me see. I've had a sick grandchild, and I feel bad that I've learned so much about God and His creation, and I don't seem to be able to communicate with others where I get things through. I honestly believe that God just made a beautiful system in our body. Well, but why is everybody so sick? It's I think I said in my earlier video that the devil is alive and well and his name is humanity. That's what it is. You have the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. These three things from where all sin originates is the motivation of man. The lust of the eye would be greed. You see something, you want it. Somebody else has something, you want it. This is greed. The lust of the eye is greed. Um, the lust of the flesh, uh, your flesh desires something, and well, you just want it. You're not thinking about anybody else. The lust of the flesh is a selfish, totally selfish thing. This is just me. So you have greed, selfishness, and the pride of life. What I would call that in modern language, instead of saying the pride of life, but who knows? Who knows what the pride of life means? What the pride of life is talking about is arrogance. We're greedy, self-centered, selfish, and arrogant. That's humanity. All right? And that's where all the evil comes from. That's where your diseases come from. That's where the destruction for God's beautiful creation come from. It's those three things. And it's all in man. You know, sharks are not bad. They might bite your leg off, and that'd feel real bad for you. But sharks are not bad. They're playing a good role in the universe, in God's plan. And so they're not evil. They are just doing what they're programmed to do. Mankind now is a different thing. See, we're told in Genesis that the Elohim, speaking to each other, said, "Let's make man in our image, after our similitude. Let's make man as we are. Give him dominion over the animals and the fish and the fowl and everything. Give him dominion over all these things." and and make them like the Elohim. That's the Elohim are the fingers of God, and the Elohim are intelligent beings. You don't believe in aliens? You don't believe in the Bible. The Bible's full of aliens. See? So anyway, these I'm not saying they're alien to Earth necessarily, but they're aliens nonetheless because they're not human. These the angels that people talk to, Abraham and so forth. When they're talking to an angel, they're not talking to a human being. unless it's a human angel. I'm not saying there's not human angels. That's a possibility. Anyway, all these aliens are the fingers of God, and those are aliens were creating our creation, mankind's what we think of as our creation. I guess it's part of our greed, isn't it? Yes, our selfishness and our greed, we think it's ours. It's not ours. We're a little bit in it. We're a little piece of the creation. It's not our creation. Anyway, and the aliens are the fingers of God. I think I said the analogy, God is an invisible power. God is spirit. A spirit, any spirit, is an invisible power. You jump up in the air, an invisible power pulls you back down. You turn the switch for your electric light, and the light lights by an invisible power, something that's not seen. Anyway, invisible power you do not see, but you see the effect of it. And God is the creator, and you see the effect of what he's done. You see the effect of his creation. You see all this wonderful, beautiful creation all around us. And what is mankind doing to it? Destroying it. So anyway, this is about sickness, is what I'm. See, I decided not to plan things out because then I never get anything done. So I'm not planning out, and I hope it's not too erratic and senseless to anybody listening to me. So anyway, man is the devil. Man is the uh, the slanderer. You know. Yeah, I don't know. I just got to go off on one tangent after another. Let me try to concentrate on my sick grandchild and the ideas that I got. And you know, you don't see many miracles of healing nowadays. Yet, healing happens all the time, and God is healing all the time. And God made his creation, and he looked at it, he looked at the plants, he looked at the animals, he looked at all the things that he done, and said, it is good. You know, a lot of times I'm referring to Elohim and I say he. That's because, like the iron filings on the magnet, all these iron filings line up and the magnetic field travels through them and they add to the magnetic field to those around them, straightening them out. That's the Elohim with the power of God. And this is the gift that is given to us. We are made similar to the Elohim. I have music playing. I don't know why or where it's coming from. Anyway, it threw my train of thought off. Um, anyway, I'm talking about the creation, and it is good. And the Elohim had the power of God flowing through him. And all of these iron filings or Elohim, whatever, however you want to think of it. I think of things in analogies because, I've never seen an angel to the best of my knowledge. Although, we all know we might see them. If they look like human beings, how are you going to tell? Unless they tell you or do some kind of a miracle that a human couldn't do. But anyway, God's power, this power that the whole universe is held together with, this power in which we live and move and have our being. This is a power similar to this magnetism aligning all these iron filings. Now, God is the creative spirit and he's still creating. He's creating us. And yes, he's creating us. But I don't want to take away your responsibility when I say something like he's creating us. You are given a special, I don't know, power, ability, whatever you want to call it. Out of all the animals, all the animals, they just work on programming. They're programmed. This, oh, I got another tangent. I better skip it. I lose my train of thought so easy. Anyway, the power of God is holding together all this creation. God is creating it. That doesn't mean that these LOM aren't involved. They are involved. They are like the iron filings, and the Spirit of God is moving right through them, doing God's will. And God is doing it. What the LOM do, God's the one doing it because they have this communication knowledge of what God wants, and they do it. And human beings are given a special thing over all the other animals in that we are similar to these LOM and that we can also communicate with God and God can communicate with us. Now, we think of communication as verbal sounds, words. That's completely wrong. That serpent in the Garden of Eden, I don't think it had vocal cords, but if any of you've got a pet, that pet can communicate with you. And people who see in this American culture, we're so alienated from anything that has anything to do with God. We just don't understand things that are basic to most people throughout history and around the world. We have turned into the most ignorant, useless, ungodly bunch of creatures that have ever existed on this planet, I think. Well, I don't know what might have existed, prehistoric times. But anyway, we're given choice. We're the only animal with free will, the ability to make choices. See, your animals all are programmed by genetics and their environment. They're a product of where they are and what they're born with. And that's it. That's what they are, and they just operate however the programming is set up. Now, mankind is given a third portion of the brain, and with it, he can think things that other animals can't. Now, an animal, he goes somewhere and he runs into a briar patch and gets all cut up and stuff. He learns that kind of plant hurts. Don't be jumping on it. Okay, so now his environment has programmed him. See? Now, the difference is we can sit here in our chair and think. Now, I would bet that if I jumped on a blackberry plant with all of the sharp stickers on it and everything, I bet you that would hurt. I think that I'm going to avoid running through the briar patch or the blackberry patch. And we have the ability to do that. Something that we weren't programmed by the environment, we weren't programmed by our genetics, nothing. But we are given the ability to reason. This is long-winded. I'm still trying to get at the sick child. So we're given the ability to reason, and mankind just hates that ability. They'll do almost anything to avoid ever thinking. They sit there and they numb their brain with the TV and music and computer and everything else, anything that they can think of just to avoid thinking. And, we're told that man has always had the ability to see God. It's not just those who have had the Bible, that they can have any understanding of God. It's been given the ability for every man. They've got this ability to see God, to see the way the stars and the planets operate and see how nature operates. And these are all effects of God. Just like magnetism is effect of that piece of iron with all the lined up poles in it, So we observe God through the effect of God, and so everybody's got the ability to see God. Mankind doesn't want to see God because of their arrogance. They want to think that they are God. Mankind, it's just part of our nature. This lust of the eye, lust of flesh, and pride of life, arrogance is one of the characteristics of humanity, and we want to put ourselves in the position of God. We want to think of ourselves as the center of the universe, the most important thing that has ever existed. This is this is our natural way of seeing things. So we don't want to see God. When we look at nature, we don't want to see God. When people look at how this wonderful programming God has put into every plant and animal in their DNA, isn't that amazing? And yet, mankind is so arrogant that he thinks, oh, this didn't come about by intelligence because I didn't do it. How idiotic can you be? So anyway, I'm trying to get back on the path here. God has made a good creation. He looked at it. He said, it is good. It is good. And, and man was good. See, and he was tending God's creation in the garden. I don't know what he did to tend it. I know that, like, when I go into my garden and I tend it, I'm liable to. Oh, I learned a lot of things in that garden. You see God all over the place. Um, anyway, I love the garden, and I love God, and I love seeing God. And anyway, the tree of life, mankind, when they decided to put their self first and do what they wanted instead of what God wanted. Here's their arrogance and selfishness and everything. So then God said, well, then I'm going to kick you out of my garden here, my Garden of Eden. And you're going to have to earn your bread by the sweat of your brow. Well, anyway, and then there's the tree of life in the Garden of Eden. And then also, we're told that in the end, at the New Jerusalem, there's going to be trees of life, along that river that flows out of Jerusalem. Trees of life. Anyway, the tree of life existed in the Garden of Eden. I think, this is my opinion, I think that the tree of life is all around us. And it's just our arrogance, selfishness, and greed that stop us from seeing it. A little over a year ago, I was sick. Uh, 2 or 3 years ago, I was so sick I could hardly move. I couldn't think. I couldn't put a sit. You think I'm talking bad now? Can't keep track. You should have seen me a couple of years ago. Anyway, my brain was dead. I was so weak I couldn't do anything. I spent probably at least a week out of the month in bed. I just too weak and everything to get up. And then I don't know. It came in stages. But I found out that if you put your faith in the arm of God instead of the arm of the flesh, the man, if you put your faith in the arm of God, the arm of the Spirit of God, there's great power. Just like these little iron filings, having the magnetic flux run through them. The power of God can run through you. But you have to exercise this thing that makes us like the Elohim. Our ability to serve God, to see God, to know what God wants, and then to do it. That's what we see of the Elohim. That's what we see them doing. And we are giving this similitude then that we have the potential to do this. We can be Elohim. So anyway, and this, but back to the sick child and the tree of life. I was sick. Anyway, I quit. I quit taking all the medicine. I had 3 times a day. I'm taking different pills for different things, and I quit one, then I quit another, then I quit another, quit another. Until I don't know, a year or so ago, I wasn't taking any medicine at all, and I felt better than I had in decades. And then the next step, after getting off all these man-made drugs, which were all, as far as I could see it, the arm of the flesh. I just put my faith in the arm of the flesh. Doctor says so. You don't think? See, what we do, we avoid using that thing that makes us like the elephant. You don't think, you just do what the doctor says. But we see when we look at Adam that no, 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 we don't do what other beings or things say. We do what God says. And we see God by seeing the effect of God. I'm not saying we don't see God in the Bible. I think the Bible is a wonderful, special communication from God. But that doesn't relieve us from seeing him in every flower and bird and insect out there in nature too. So anyway, okay, I'm still beating around the bush, aren't I? I have this sick child, and I know. Oh, I didn't finish my own story yet, did I? Yeah. So anyway, after I stopped all the medicine, I started eating healthier, and um, you know, I don't know. I just started quitting stuff that I knew was poison, using this instead of just eating what tastes good. I decided, well, no, I think that I'm going to eat what I'm told is good, not what the lust of the flesh desires, but what the creative spirit suggests. I recommend this to whoever watches my videos. I'm getting pretty long-winded. I better start getting to the end of this. Okay, I didn't realize I'd been on so long. I just noticed that I've got a time meter there on the bottom of the screen telling me how I've been on there over 20 minutes already. Anyway, you get away from man. Quit eating man-made food. If man has touched it, if it's a cow, these feedlot uh, beef and meat and pigs and chickens that never see the ground, never see a blade of grass. It's disgusting what man is doing in the destruction of God's creation. I mean, it is. I really am disgusted what I see my fellow man doing to God's creation. And yet, how many of us just go right into the store and buy all this garbage that comes from this ungodly stuff? Anyway, back to me and my health. I stopped eating all these processed foods. Anything that God made is good. Anything that man has messed with, is messed up. Just stay away from it. Don't drink pasteurized milk. Don't eat processed uh, bread. Don't eat anything that comes in a can, a box, anything. They're full of poisons. Now, we have people. Okay, back to the sick child. Yeah, stay focused there. Back to the sick child. I know. I know how to make her well. And she says, everybody. I thought, oh yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. Maybe someday I'll do something. Maybe I'll quit eating all this candy poison, and start eating some God-given plants of life. But who's doing it? I don't know anybody doing it. Actually, I actually they do a little bit, but they won't just won't give up the poison. And I have this poor child, and it breaks my heart. Why do you choose death? Why do you choose death in your everyday life? Why choose death at every step? Why do you drink this filthy milk that's come from tortured, sick animals and put it on these chemically created cereals full of poisons, toxins, stuff that's killing you? Why do that? Oh, it tastes good. The lust of the flesh. Uh, the lust of the flesh is a strong thing. Recognize it. When you read the Bible, don't just read it as a history book. Oh, I see this happen. I see that happen. Don't. No. The Bible is put there for those who want to be Elohim, and it tells them how. See, so we see God. We see God in His creation. We see God and what God is telling us directly through His holy word. And what God does is good, and what man does is bad. I'd better leave it there. This is getting real long. I'm going to cut it off before I've hit a half hour. So I'm going to talk like this, and that way I'll put on more of these videos because I'm not going to prepare for now on like I was thinking about doing. Okay. And hey, I would very much appreciate hearing for anybody that watches these things, so I could know that there is anybody that watches them, and if they have any comment on it, I would like to hear from them.